on the football side of it, as we've said, it's a massive honour to be called up and very exciting, but would you feel a bit apprehensive about the other side of it, the human rights side of it, if you were a player?
Understanding the history and a lot of things that happened, just looking it on that side, you can have some feelings, but I will be there. If I'm honest, and I was called up and I was in Qatar, I have to be honest, and I will be part of that.
Have you had any discussions with your players who were going about that,
No.
or have any of them come to you about it?
No.
Is it a bit unfair for us to ask these questions of players? It's not their choice. It's the World Cup. It's a huge chance for them.
Yeah. And they have a responsibility with the national team that they have to fulfill. That's what I'm saying, that I will be there, because if you are get called by a national team, you have the responsibility to attend.
Can you talk about Bukayo? You were mentioning the difference between 2018, Euros, and now in terms of the way he's changed. How would you expect him to react if he's called up to take a penalty again?
Well, he's done it at club level. So I'm sure he has the capacity and the ability to do it international level, but you can score or miss a penalty, but I don't think it's going to be because what happened in the past.
Have you had a conversation with him in terms of, I know this is a club where there's support from everywhere, but have you had a conversation with him specifically about moments like that and living with that pressure, which he's managed to do at club?
We have talked about that, and not only what he's been through, but what is coming, and he's preparing every single day for that, because the demands are going to be that you want to take your game to the next level and win football matches every 3 days. You have to have that responsibility with yourself, and that would add pressure from your own standards and as well externally. And if you want to become that player and that's his ambition, you have to deal with that. It's simple.
One other one. Obviously, there was a point last season where you were fourth, and it looked in Arsenal's hands. There were a few games in hand. Lots of people believed it was there for the taking, and you didn't finish in the top four. Has that helped you, the club, the players, not to get carried away with being top over Christmas?
As I said before, in football, what you have today doesn't mean you have it tomorrow. It can change very quickly. Circumstances can change. You can get injuries like we had in that period, momentum shift, and you have to be ready for that. And when that's changed, you have to have the experiences sometimes to have lived those situations to overcome them quickly.
And Mikel, the last kind of 5-6 weeks, it's been a game every 3-4 days. I just wonder, what will you do on Monday morning when you've actually got a bit of a chance to relax?
Well, I have a few days that I have things to do. Then I would take a few days off to rest, to reflect, to write, to read, to spend time with the family, and reset a little bit and analyze what we've done, and what is the route that we want to take when this restarts.
What do you write? Do you keep a journal, or and what kind of stuff do you like reading to relax?
All type of things.
What's your book at the moment?
Depending how I feel. Ask my missus, and she will answer that question better.
James?
Thank you. Mikel, I want to ask you about Bukayo from a slightly different perspective. Over the last few weeks in games, my observation, or our observation, seems to be that he's getting a lot of attention from opposition defenders, a lot of challenges. And Ian Wright said this week that he thinks Bukayo is being kicked to bits. Is that how you see it, and does it concern you?
Well, again, I responded to that question. I think the referees have the duty to deal with that. The players, the better they become, more targets are going to become, because like we want to do, they will be trying to stop him and find ways to stop him. And that's why football has a very clear rules of what you can do, what you cannot do, and that's the referee's job today.
And yeah, obviously the referees and the opposition, they're out of your hands, but as a coach, is there anything that you can do working with Bukayo to kind of prepare him for those challenges?
Yeah, and there is a part that we can do better, and we have to be more intelligent.
What is that part?
I cannot tell you that.
Do you mean in terms of how the players respond to the referee on the pitch?
No, with things that he needs to do on the pitch.
I wish you'd tell me.
That sounds really interesting.
It is.
From a tactical perspective or a physical perspective?
Tactical perspective.
So it's not a question of relying on protection from the referee?
Well, you can till a certain point, then it becomes about the timing, the decision making, the space that you have generated before that action, and then understanding and knowledge of what is going to happen before it happens. That's it.
It happened a bit with Jack Grealish, didn't it, where he kept getting fouled and referees almost stopped thinking it like, the guy's been booked for diving and he's not that kind of player at all. Is that a bit of a worry? That the number of times he gets kicked, he gets noticed less and less.
Listen, let him play, let him do what he's doing. He's doing extremely well, and let the referees do their job, and let's carry on.
You said that there are things he can do. Is there an exponent?
We can do.
An example of somebody who does manage to not rely on the keeper, on the referee, but just is able to do what they need to do, that you could maybe point to.
Sorry, can you repeat the
Give
question?
an example
Mm.
of an exponent of not relying on the referee.
Yeah, sometimes the type of ball that we give him, and when we give them certain balls.
Are there any players that you show him or that you look at and think, Bukayo, you could learn a bit from this player?
Players have role models, and sometimes they try to get inspired by them, and this is really positive, and we can use those players as well to use certain things that can improve their games and can be used as an example, and we're always trying to get that done.
So with that in mind, obviously at the World Cup, he will have been identified as a key player, potentially for England. Have you spoken to him about?
When that happens to England, then I can talk, because then I don't talk about the Premier League, I talk to the referees in Europe. So then you can ask me the questions.